Strong against HB 2453, and we could not be more happy that he did. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel something from you all here today. Maybe a little warmth, but something else. I feel power. I feel power from you today because you're here in this cold, in the back up over here at the Justice Building. And what we want is justice for everybody, not just a few of the people that are in here that want justice for whom they choose, but for everybody. But I do want to make sure that we do acknowledge, I just received a text from a good friend of mine in the state of Arizona, Senator Anna Tovar, that Governor Brewer is going to veto that bill. We talked this morning on my way down. We need to be assured that this is an election year. You need to remember who your friends are. You need to remember who supports you and your issues as we hit the polls this November and the primary. You can vote for yourselves and empower yourselves to be out and give a voice that we heard last week and the voices we hear now. If it wasn't for strong voices like you all, who knows what the Senate would have done with this bill. So thank you for what you did and what you're going to do in the future on this type of litigation, type of legislation. Not a whole lot of people are willing to come out in this type of weather to be heard, to have their voices strong with the legislators that are here. The people on this side, behind me, not all of them are hateful. Not all of them are people who will vote against you. We didn't have 49 against the bill. The others voted for the bill. But I think a lot of them regret it, a lot of them don't. And I understand that there is a movement amongst one of our minority Tea Party people who want to resurrect this bill and see if it'll go to the Senate. But I think it's going to die. Some people are a little bit smarter than we're giving credit for, so we're thankful that the Senate people are going to let this bill die. Also, I got to run, I have 1:30 to leave, but I do want to give a couple of more shout outs to people who are here. I got friends from all over the Kansas area that came down here today. I consider all of you my friends as well. Be cognizant of who I am. I represent the 31st District. My office is 174 West. Don't be a stranger. I'm always welcome friends. I don't get to see very many happy faces as they walk through the office here. I'm always kind of ducking bullets and ducking, punches every now and then whenever I speak. So seeing really happy faces is a real treat to me. But last week, on my way home, I was listening to 96.5 The Buzz, the Church of Lazarus. How many of you are familiar with that? And I heard him discussing this bill, 453. So I had to call in. And I got to speak with Laszlo and Slimfast and Meredith, and they were well in tune with what's going on here. And they took our side of this issue. They took our side and broadcasted big. All of us internationally, they were very much strong in favor of voting against this bill. And why, people ask me, why in God's name would anybody want to vote for an issue like this? I said, well, I don't think it's really in God's name they're doing it. It's just maybe somebody else's name. So I'll let it go at that. But I do want to thank you. Your presence here means a lot to us who are standing for everybody's rights. And being a Mexican American, growing up with bigotry, growing up with discrimination, it's hard to hear stories from my family, my folks who went through discrimination back in the 40s and 50s. I went through discrimination back when I was in high school, grade school. The sad thing is my church discriminated. They're one of the strong supporters of this bill. I don't want to name my church, but being a Mexican American growing up, I know what church I belong to. But one of the most hurtful things that I saw with my kids, little 3-year-olds playing, not wondering why they weren't invited to somebody's house for a birthday party, or to go play, or to get a drink of water. Hurts my heart to vote for any type of discrimination, see any type of legislation like that come across our table. God bless you all, thank you, and God willing, we won't have to face this again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Reese. I'm now going to introduce Representative John Wilson from the 10th Kansas District in eastern Douglas County. Representative Reese is a veteran of the wars in this building. I don't know how long he's been here, and I don't think it would be polite to ask. Representative Wilson is a freshman. He is a first-termer. He won a seat that flips back and forth regularly between Republicans and Democrats. It flips back and forth between the right wing and the sane people. He took a stand on this bill when we weren't sure we would be here celebrating today. So thank him for his bravery, and we need to be there for him if he gets an opponent in the next election. Representative Wilson, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm standing here as a person of faith. I'm standing here as a fellow human being. I'm standing here as an advocate and an ally for this cause. And I'm standing here incredibly proud that I voted no on this hateful, discriminatory bill. I'm proud of that vote, and I'm proud to be a voice for folks who feel marginalized. I'm proud to be a voice for those who feel like their voices go unheard in this building, and to me that happens far too often. So I'm so thankful that I can be here today to support this cause. I want to be clear that the Senate stopping this bill is certainly a very good thing. I'm glad that they did it. But I have to say, I don't know what their primary motivation was for the decision. It could be that they stopped and looked and they realized, you know what, equality and not being discriminatory really is an important thing for people of Kansas. And maybe they've had a genuine change of heart. Maybe they have these new, sincerely held beliefs that discrimination is wrong and equality for everybody is right. That could be one reason for their decision to stop this bill. Or it could be that they might realize they are way to the right of where most Kansans are these days, and they might have overplayed their hand a little bit, and they really don't want to be seen as discriminatory this election. So they might have got a phone call from the second floor to say, we got to slow this down because we don't want to look like we're too discriminatory. So I don't know what the reason is, but if it's the former, if it's because they really had a change of heart, then I think this is the time that we continue to call their offices and email them and say, we need sexual orientation and gender identity included in our non-discrimination laws now. Businesses don't want to discriminate. We have Fortune 500 companies in this state that have non-discrimination policies. So since the state really does want to become more like businesses, why don't we become that business-friendly environment and not discriminate against people because of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, and who they love, and who they want to commit to for the rest of their lives? If it's because they're worried about the political issue in November, well then I think that still means we have to call and email and show up in their offices and say that this isn't just going to disappear, that we are watching what's happening in this building. Either way, you all need to keep showing up. I'm going to be here being your voice. We're going to work alongside each other to make sure that people hear our voices and that we don't continue to discriminate through hateful policy. I just want to end on a personal note. As I mentioned, I'm a person of faith, and I have to say it's my faith that compels me to believe what I believe and to believe that public policy that discriminates against a group of people is wrong. And I want you to know that I believe in a God that actually is still speaking, and a God that believes that no matter who you are, who you love, where you are on your journey in life, that you are loved by God, no matter what. If there are people in the audience, people who are watching the Twitter feed, people who are hearing this on the news later tonight, who feel like you've been marginalized, that you continue to be oppressed, that people don't understand you, that people are critical of who you are and who you love, I want you to know that that's not the case for everybody in this building. And to keep fighting and to stay strong, because things are going to change. There's a lot of turmoil that happens in your life around these issues, and I'm so sorry on behalf of the legislature that we continue to marginalize you. But I want you to know, I think we all know this, even after the most turbulent storm, the most fierce weather, a strong, bright rainbow can still appear. So thank you all.
Thank you, Representative Wilson. The next representative I'm going to introduce is Susan Kincannon from District 107. District 107 is up by the Canadian border, Beloit, which is in north central Kansas. Representative Kincannon, I'm going to say this first, equality is not a partisan value. And Representative Kincannon proves that by being one of the 20 Republicans in the Kansas House of Representatives to vote no, and to stand up up in the face of her own party's leadership and say no to this bill, loudly and proudly. Thank you, Representative Kincannon.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. And what a proud statement to say that you're out here in this chill. I wanted to step outside and just say hello to you. I've got to get to committee. I'm vice chair of the next committee, so I'm going to move on. But thanks so much. Thanks for being here. I'm proud to have voted against this bill. I questioned it in committee. It came out of my committee with a no vote for me, and then I made the motion on the floor to re-refer to the committee, and that motion failed. But we tried, and look at what you all can do, and we've got it buried for now. Thanks.
Well, that was great. That was great, those representatives. You know, while I was standing back there listening, I was reading some of those signs, and I just got to say thank you so much. My heart is just warmed over. I love you all. The science job is fantastic. We're going to continue now with Kent Little from College Hill United Methodist Church. He's giving a big round.
Thank you. Tom asked me originally if I would do an ecumenical invitation, and then somebody asked me if I'd do an ecumenical address. So either consider this an extended prayer or a brief address. I have a confession. I am a person of faith, and I am straight, and I am a citizen. That may not be particularly astonishing news, but it might be news to some of those who occupy the rotunda behind me, that I am all of those things, and I find HB 2453 not only an offense to my citizenship, not only offense to those of you who have gathered here, but an offense to my deeply held religious beliefs. When I look at this bill as an actual religious protection for my own Christian tradition, Jesus was only critical and condemning of oppressive civil governments of his day and the oppressive actions of some of the religious leaders of his day. Other than that, he welcomed all, and certainly did not turn anyone away because of their deeply held religious beliefs. Personally, I don't believe HB 2453 is dead yet. It may be tabled, and although I'm glad it's been tabled for a time, it's unfortunate, I think, that the primary reason for it being tabled was not because it is unjust and discriminatory and doing damage to real people, real lives, simply because of who they love. That's the primary bill's controversy, not what's been identified. This bill, whether it's in its current form or amended, is not a religious freedom bill. It reaches any sense of separation of church and state set forth in our Constitution by the writings of Thomas Jefferson. It is a discrimination bill cloaked in religious language in order to appeal to certain theological-based persons in our state. However, I would implore us not to respond and react in kind to those who would discriminate against and oppress our friends and family, our brothers and sisters and moms and dads. I would encourage us to overcome that with love. Love is a powerful force. Love is what has brought you here to this place. It is the power to transform our land into a land of equality and justice for all, where all means all. When it is the rule rather than an exception. I want you to take just a second and look at the people around you. Really. Look at the persons next to you. Many of us are there here. The day is coming, and I believe sooner than later, when love will be celebrated for all, regardless of gender. The day when love is love. The day is coming when moms and dads and dads and moms and dads may tell their children, if you are here, of this day and more days like this to come. We're not there yet. The road will not be easy, the resistance will be strong, and is it difficult to put one foot in front of the other, and the days are long and the nights are longer when your knees feel weak, and your arms are weary, and your voice is raspy and tired from crying out. While we may not change all the hearts and minds, you remember this sight. You remember why we rallied. You remember all these persons with you here in this place and around the world who stand by your side in this very moment. You remember that equality and justice is what we stand for, and no, you are not alone. And if your presence here does nothing else but give somebody else the courage to stand up and speak, well, our time is not wasted. Peace and light for your journey. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Reverend Little. Thank you very much. It's really pretty simple, isn't it? Equal love, equal lives, equal respect. It's not that hard, is it? It's really not that hard. Up next, we've got Gary Brunk. He's the Executive Director of the ACLU. Please give him a big hand.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for your earlier kind words about the ACLU. We're proud to be here. Thank you all for being here. One of the things that amazes me about this crowd is the variety of ages. There's a lot of baby boomers like I am, but there's also a bunch of young people and a whole bunch of people in between. I think this says a lot about the movement of this. The road that our nation has traveled in the quest for expanding liberties has never been straight or easy. The Declaration of Independence boldly asserted that all men are created equal, and yet the Constitution, written a few years after that, condoned slavery. As historian Gary Wills convincingly argues, at Gettysburg, President Lincoln had to leapfrog back over the Constitution into a declaration to restore the centrality in this country of the idea that all men truly are created equal. Even then, we know that it took decades before African Americans began having a modicum of their rights, and we know that it took decades before women began having a modicum of their rights. Today we can acknowledge the fulfillment of rights of African Americans and of women, can acknowledge that it's improved, not that it's fulfilled, but we know that there's still a long ways to go. And so it is for other marginalized groups in our society. In the last few years, our country has taken really astonishing steps towards the equality for LGBT people. I'm proud to say that the ACLU has played a critical role in that progress, including our historic victory convincing the Supreme Court that the Defense of Marriage Act violated equal protection by denying married gay couples recognition under federal law. Edie Windsor was our client. We made progress, but as we all know, much remains to be done. Hardly anywhere is that more the case in our own state, where under the guise of religious liberty, some legislators want to legalize discrimination against LGBT couples. But we know that this is not about religious liberty, it's about giving persons with certain convictions the right to impose their views on others. This is pure and simple, an attempt to institutionalize the tyranny of a set of ideas that increasingly most Americans reject. Today, as civil libertarians, as people who are religious, as people who are not religious but care about fulfilling the promise of the Declaration of Independence, we are called on to continue delivering a strong and persistent message to this legislature that we will not condone and will not accept discrimination in any form or under any guise. To work in our communities across the state to help our families, friends, neighbors, and co-workers understand how some members of this legislature seek to undermine, in Lincoln's words, the proposition that all are created equal, and to seize the opportunity of the upcoming election to vote our values and to encourage others to do so also. We know what the long-term outcome of this fight will be. Even in Kansas, LGBT people will come to enjoy the rights and responsibilities promised in the Constitution, the Declaration, and the Bill of Rights. And so will immigrants, women, African American, poor people, and others for whom the road to freedom has been long and way too slow. Today, let us dedicate ourselves to a new proposition, that our efforts can and will turn the promise into reality sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Up next, we've got Rabbi Mark Levin from the Main Street Coalition.
Thank you for being here. More than that, thank you for being on the right side of history. I want you to look around you. Take a look at where you're standing. In less than 3 months, on May the 17th, it'll be exactly 60 years since the Supreme Court of the United States decided that school segregation is illegal and against the Constitution of the United States. My God, people, have our legislators learned nothing? How long will God tolerate our stubborn insistence, rebelling against God's word? Human beings are created, every one of us, in God's image. I am Mark Levin. I am a Jew, I am a rabbi, and I am the founder of the Mainstream Coalition. And I'm here today as an American. This is the land of the free. This is the home of the brave. And I know what it is that preserves our liberty. It is the rule of law. I remember segregated schools. I attended racially segregated schools. How dare the people in Topeka, Kansas, 60 years after Brown versus the Board of Education, argue that religious exclusionists have a right to exclude human beings from equality. Many churches argued that blacks were inferior human beings and did not have the right to be educated with whites. As the local Westboro Baptist Church argues that God hates gays today. Really? Our legislator wants to side with the Westboro Baptist Church? What protected those African American families? The 13 families, the 20 children who sued the Board of Education for equal rights under the law? What integrated our schools? What brought African Americans and whites together? Equality under the law. No Jews or dogs allowed. That sign kept my father out of the swimming pool that I swam in 30 years later. My father was routinely called a Christ killer. Only one anonymous phone caller ever called me a damn Jew. Between my dad's childhood and mine came the Nazi murder of 6 million Jews and gays and lesbians and Roma. And American soldiers fought those Nazis. The Nazis murdered Jews, and therefore suddenly in the public mind, to be a Jew hater meant to be a Nazi. Auschwitz killed the Nazi brand because we saw where hatred leads. In my father's childhood, businesses discriminated by religious belief. In Johnson County in the city of Leawood, we were excluded, Jews and blacks were excluded from living in Leawood, Kansas. Blacks could not swim in my childhood pool in Baltimore because they were considered inferior to whites.